mentioned Steve Clarke. I had him at Villa. He was sort of interim.
How was he?
Manager. He was amazing, but he didn't play me.
There seems to be a common theme, doesn't it, Micah? Coaches not picking you.
Who should perhaps be the next England manager? I mean, even Pep's been linked with the job.
Steady, guys, steady.
Hello and welcome to the Rest is Football with me, Gareth Lineker, and joining me as usual are the perfect pairing, I would say, of Alan Shearer and Micah Richards to catch up on what's been happening recently in the world of football, of course. And we're in the middle of an international break, and we got the customary drab England performance, didn't we, chaps? It's a little bit frustrating. I think sometimes there's a tendency to think perhaps your own national team should always win and win comfortably, but it wasn't particularly satisfying, may I put it politely, Alan?
No, it wasn't a great game. Certainly wasn't a great performance. Result-wise, yeah, I thought it was decent for them, particularly in the shape that they're in. But yeah, well, because of who and what we are, we always expect and want that little bit more. I suppose you can look at it and think it's early on in the season. Players are not up to full tilt yet. But because of some of their performances in their league games, whoever that was for, we perhaps expected a little bit too much, but it was a poor watch, wasn't it?
Micah, you sent a text we have a little group chat yesterday, and you saying why is international football so boring?
It's just tedious, isn't it? I mean,
there's not much jeopardy, I suppose, because you expect England should qualify, although they're in the group with Italy, obviously.
You just think, though, we got off to the Premier League and we've got off to a bang. It's been outstanding watch, and then you up here. Well, for those who can see me, I'm putting my hand up. For those who are listening, you're going from another level. You know, like you're thinking, and then you come down and watch international football, and it just sucks the life out of you. You're looking at performances and you're thinking, yeah, okay, they're going to qualify. It's no problem. But we want a little bit of excitement. And people will talk about, well, yeah. And the thing for me, I'm thinking Henderson, Maguire. And a lot of people have talked about this already, but okay, we know what Maguire can do. He's going to play when fit. But if something happens to Stones, if something happens to Maguire, Mings is already out for long term. Why not try somebody else and see what they can do? Yeah, but you've got Tomori. He's playing Champions League football for AC Milan. If he's not going to get a chance now, when is he going to get a chance? And I just thought, Henderson, we know what Henderson can do. We know that. We've seen it for so many years. It was crying out for someone like Phil Foden to start, get on the half turn, make something happen. We know how Ukraine was going to play. They're going to drop deep. Even the manager before the game saying, we've got our plan how the game's going to go. We're going to try and get him on the counter-attack.
So let's play two holding players.
Experiment a little bit more. Exactly. Yeah. It's just frustrating.
I don't know what your take, Alan, but
I'm
for me with the Henderson thing, I mean, I'm a huge admirer of his career. He's been an unbelievable football, but I did a similar thing. I moved abroad at the very end of my career on a little sojourn to earn a few bob and to get a different experience. I think then that is semi-retirement. And I don't think then you should play an international football. And as soon as I made that decision, I withdrew from international football because, and to take the problem away from the manager at the time. So I just think that, I'm not judging Jordan Henderson whether he should do or should do that. It's up to him. And I know there are huge superstars in the game that have done some similar things. But if you're a Ronaldo or a Messi, then that's slightly different, and you leave things up to them. But I don't think a player personally, if they're going to play in a kind of that thing where you just go for a big payday at the end of your career, I don't really think you should still be playing for your country. And unless there are extreme circumstances, or we had a dearth of talent, which we absolutely do not in the midfield area.
That is one of our strongest positions in there, isn't it? With so much talent in and around that midfield area. I mean, I was really surprised that he played him the other day, particularly when, as Micah said, we knew exactly how they were going to play. So we needed someone who can unlock the door, who can pick that little pass, who can when it's going to be tight, when someone runs. I mean, the Harry Kane pass for Kyle Walker's goal, we needed more of that. And to be fair to Jordan, that's not one of his strengths. So yeah, I was really surprised. Did you hear or did you read his interview that Jordan did last week?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, we touched on it in an earlier one, didn't we? A couple of weeks back, where we said basically the guys are going for the money. That's
Just say it. It's fine. It's up to you.
Yeah.
If you're protecting your family, your future, that's fine. But don't try and pretend otherwise. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism came from. I mean, you got to try and understand it from his point of view as well. Maybe he's very reluctant to say it because it may be disrespecting his team or whatever. I don't know. But I think he would have been much better, coming out of it much better by saying, yeah, I'm doing it for my family and their family and so on for the rest of their lives and for the next generation of his family. So, yeah, I thought I didn't agree with what he said. I'm a huge admirer of who he is and what he is, as I've said before, and what he's done and the work and some of the great work that he's done. He has an unbelievable career. But I do think if he had just come out and said, I've gone for the money.
Yeah, I also don't think personally it helped him staying on for the full 90 minutes. I'm not sure Gareth did him too many favours there. It kind of exacerbated the problem. You've already got Maddison playing wide left, which is clearly not his position, because he wanted to get Henderson in the side in the midfield. And then to take Maddison off and obviously take Bellingham off, who'd scored two late goals for Real Madrid in big games in past 90 minutes in. I don't think so. Sometimes Gareth helps himself with I suppose the one thing, I mean, I think Gareth overall has done an excellent job with England, but he has got, terrific talent. But sometimes the one, I think, criticism you can level him is his substitutions. He's never really turned a game, has he? Never really made things massively different.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you've just said, Gary. I think it's time now. When we talked about the golden generation with Lampard, Gerrard and Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, John, all that, you're thinking they have to win something. And the question was, have England got the right manager? Like you said, Southgate has been fantastic. But now while we've got this array of talent, potentially in their peak as well, that's the one, they're in their peak. Now we've got to get a manager who can get the best out of these players and take them to the next level.
I'm gonna step here just for a minute. I know we've got great talent, but to be fair to Gareth Southgate, he's made England a competitive side in major tournaments. And sometimes people will say to you that flamboyant football full of flair doesn't win you tournaments. Being kind of pragmatic often does. And I think that's probably where he comes from. Also, he was a defender, of course, so he probably thinks a little bit safe. He's very safe.
And we've gone past being safe, though, haven't we? I think when Italy won the Euros, they was a defensive team. I agree. With what you're saying, it's more about keeping his shape and set pieces. But I just believe with England now, like you would say Rice is a defensive midfielder, but he can do the other side as well, like he's doing at Arsenal now. We're not saying that we have to play everyone and just play this attacking football because we've not got the centre-halves probably to do that. But we can start playing people in their right positions. Maddison out on the left. Foden for the last 2 or 3 years has been out on the left or on the right. Do you know what I mean? It's just everyone seems to be just filling in. They don't seem to be playing in the position which suits the team the best.
So, Micah, are you saying you think Southgate should go now?
I just think after the Euros at the end of the season, he's done fantastic.
What if they win the Euros? Which is not beyond the realms of possibility.
But he has to. He can go with his head held high. He's got to,
Yeah, I think I think he probably would.
that'd be perfect, wouldn't it? But I just believe now is the time to try something different. I've not, I won't say protected Southgate, but I've supported him all through his tenure. I think he's been outstanding. But I just think now we need something different to take us that next step.
I think win or lose, whether he wins the Euros or whether England nosedive at the Euros, I think that'll be it for him, because I think because of what he's done for England, he should be able to control his own destiny in terms of staying on or not staying on. I think he deserves the opportunity. A final, a semi-final. We didn't go as far as we should have in Qatar because of a missed penalty kick. We if you remember that. So
England were a bit unlucky in that game. I mean, decisions went against them.
Absolutely. So I think he's earned the right to decide when he leaves, and I think if it doesn't go well, he'll leave. And I also think that if they win it, then it would be a good time for him. So yeah, he deserves that respect.
Can I just ask you two? So say you lot was playing for there's elite top 4, top 6 teams, but you was playing week in, week out, and as the manager, he's basically saying it doesn't really matter how you're playing. I'm gonna pick the people I trust. One's not playing in Maguire, and the other one's playing in a league we don't even know the quality of. So how would you feel as players if the manager decided to do that?
Well, I think there's a danger of that creating a problem within the camp, isn't there? That there has to be. But I think Gareth's a very intelligent man, and he's one thing he has harnessed is a terrific team spirit and a togetherness within that squad. But this kind of, I suppose, loyalty, you might want to call it, could push that and make that even more, make it difficult to maintain, because there will be players, we know how it works, there will be players within that squad that are going, what have I got to do to get into his team when there are players that are not performing?
It's not a strong department that we've got that many great players in that department, though, is there? I know you mentioned Tomori.
I don't really have a problem so much with Harry Maguire. I know he's not played much football, but he has been consistently good with England. We don't have a lot of central defenders. We're a little bit light in that area. And he probably, because he was playing Gay, he probably wanted someone alongside him with experience. If he puts 2 young lads in there, I know you talked about Tomori, and I'm surprised he's not really had much of a look in. And, we've got the youngster at Chelsea, Colwell, as well, that looks like that hopefully will fill a bit of a void for England. But Maguire has been consistently good for England, and so I understand why. But in midfield, I don't think you can make that argument, because there are so many possibilities that England could play in there. And I think
you're also right. I mean, those players, Micah, those players, maybe the youngsters that we have mentioned, will absolutely be thinking, what the hell? I mean, he's not even playing. He might get 10 minutes here or 15 minutes there. Why on earth is he starting him? They've got every right to be thinking.
I think that's the case as well. But we have to remember here that England are in pretty good shape to qualify.
Yeah.
What is it, 4 wins and a draw?
But that's my point, Gary. They're in good shape to qualify. If you want to try players out, why not now?
Ukraine is probably one of the, out of all the fixtures in that group, aside from Italy, that would be the one probably kind of demanding fixture, even though obviously Ukraine just sat, and that's not always easy to play against easy. But I'm with you on that. I think, particularly with the array of talent we have in midfield and forward positions, not so much possibly at the back. It'd be interesting to see on Tuesday whether England, what kind of outfit Gareth Southgate puts out. Harry Kane, when he's playing for Bayern Munich in the game, I watched the entirety of the last 2 games, and he plays really, really high. as a number 9. Yet when he, and we saw it at Spurs, and it's one of the strengths of his game, and we saw it certainly against Ukraine, where he goes very deep, and he didn't do that. And I was wondering whether Tuchel has said to him, "I don't want you dropping deep. I want you staying."
I know exactly what it is, and you two as strikers should know this. When you're the main man in the team, you do what you want. You get frustrated, you think, I want to get a touch of the ball. He's at Bayern Munich with other stars, and he's a new boy. It's like the new boy in class, isn't it? And he's just sort of seeing what everyone's like a little bit, what he can get away with, because although it was a fantastic pass, we don't want Harry Kane there. You want Foden there. You want Maddison there. That's the whole point. And I watched the games as well, the Bayern Munich, thinking, wow, it's a completely... to be honest, he's getting a service. But he can get the service at England as well if he just trusts his teammates.
It's an interesting point. I remember when I first went to Barcelona, and I got there, and it was like the first or second game in. I can't remember what it was. And like, Al, when you play up front and the ball goes out to the fullback, and you used to play 4-4-2, and it went out to the fullback, and it was your job on it to chase them down. Try and make some sort of valiant effort to block the ball down the line. Such was the predictable nature of the game of football in this country in those days. And then I went to Barcelona, and a game or two in, I got in at half, and I'd been chasing down fullbacks and all that sort of stuff that I'd been taught to do. And they came, and players were coming up to me, they're going, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You've come here to score goals and play up front." And I went, "Ooh, I love a bit of that. I love a bit of that." And then,
I bet that was music to those massive lugs, wasn't it?
It certainly was. But the problem is, when I went back to Spurs and I wasn't doing it, people started calling me lazy. And so I had to get a grip and start doing that nonsense again. But they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something more positive. Scotland. Another really good result for them. Comfortable win, as you would expect them to, probably in Cyprus. But they've now won 5 out of 5 in the qualifying campaign. And one of those victories, of course, was a 2-0 win against Spain. So they our friends north of the border, as we go into a match against them, obviously on Tuesday night, deserve some credit.
Well, what a job Steve Clarke's doing with John Carver alongside him. Of course, I worked with Steve Clarke and John Carver at Newcastle. Wow, God, I mean, 5 out of 5, isn't it? Flying top of the league. Beating Spain, scoring another 3 the other night. Yeah, they'll fancy their chances at home against us, won't they?
Well, they might do. Well, they'll always fancy their chances against us, and they're always they're kind of very interesting and really great atmosphere in those games whenever you play in England-Scotland games, aren't they? They're very special.
They're amazing, especially when you go a handball and kick their ass. When you beat them 3-0, they're great atmosphere.
But they've got some good players in their side, and Gilmore in midfield as well. Obviously, Andy Robertson on the left-hand side. They've got the kind of talent that perhaps Scotland used to have. Not, I might be pushing it a bit there when you talk about the days of Dalglish and Souness and Hansen et al. But you know what I mean? There's been a period where they didn't have enough players to qualify for tournaments. That does not look like the case.
Looks as if he's got a great team spirit going up there, and they all seem to want to play for him. They all look as if they're enjoying it. And they're absolutely flying.
I noticed Scott McTominay playing. He kind of getting in the box a lot. He scored again in this game. He scored a couple in the game the first time against Cyprus. He's top scorer in quality. I know
he's top scorer. I'm shocked.
He's not really getting a look in at Manchester United. Someone will go for him, won't they? In we thought he'd moved, didn't we? In these, but
West Ham, we said, wasn't it? It was West Ham. Yeah, I just think he's a really intelligent, hard-working midfielder who can do a job whatever you tell him. It's just the chaos that happens at Man United, and because of the players they've had in the past, they're always comparing them to when we had Kane or Scholes or these sort of midfielders. It's always going to be difficult, but there's a player in there. I think he's fantastic. And mentioned Steve Clarke. I had him at Villa. He was sort of interim manager.
How was he?
For a little while, and he was amazing. But he didn't play me. So, like, you know when a manager doesn't play you, but he's such a nice guy, and he's
but he's just gone up in my estimation.
Can't say anything. I really wanted to hate him. Like, who does he think he is? Not playing me. And he basically just said, your knee's not right, I'm protecting you. And he actually said to fair play, your attitude's been spot on. So we had a great relationship, but it's just, that's how you manage players.
That's important.
Be honest with them. Just be honest with me. And that, I was like,
it seems to be a common theme, doesn't it, Micah? Coaches are picking you.
You played with John McGinn as well, didn't you? I think I remember you saying before, he's really great.
So
lad.
John McGinn, we've got a WhatsApp group. So even though I'm always, he's daft as a brush. Really, really, yeah. He's got the banter, and he come down from Scotland, and he was sort of quite nervous within the dressing room because it was all about Jack Grealish, you know, at the time, and him and Jack had a really good bond. Who's in the group chat as well, and when I seen him play, I was like, oh my God, he's going to be worth 40, 50 million pounds. I'd seen it straight away, and Liverpool was supposed to be in for him, Man United, and then he had a little bit of a dip, and I sort of lost his confidence, but now he's back to his best. He's really good on the ball, but he's really strong, and he can run all day. Literally, when we used to do all the running tests, he was at the front, I was at the back, obviously, and it was so easy for him, and as long as he keeps focused, he doesn't need to leave now because
it's good. Obviously England, Scotland, or Scotland, England, I should say, because it's up north, is a friendly. No such thing in these games, though, Alan, is there? Not with
England, Scotland. I have to say, before all the Scots jump on me, they did beat us at Wembley in the return leg. I know that. So,
yeah.
But yeah, they're great games to play, and I mean the atmosphere is amazing. It doesn't matter. It will not matter a jot whether it's a friendly. We know what the fans will want, and the players will want it as well. Whatever teams that the both managers put out, and I'm pretty sure that it'll be both teams will be mixed up and changed around. But yeah, you've got to go out and you've got to win. You've got to put in the performance because you know what it means to the fans.
Play an England-Scotland game, Mike?
Nope, never did. Gutted, to be honest. What about you, Guy?
My actual debut for England, I came on as sub with 10 minutes to go at Hampden. I came on for Glenn Hoddle. Not to play midfield, I hasten to add. But yeah, and it was, I remember sitting on the bench thinking, God, this atmosphere in this stadium, it's unbelievable. And it was so special, so special. I don't know about you two, but after that, I need a breather. Too much chasing down. Let's take a break. Welcome back to The Rest is Football with me, Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer and Micah Richards. We just had a little break and we started chatting during that break about who should perhaps be the next England manager if, as appears probably likely, win or lose in the Euros, that Gareth Southgate leaves. So I think we should discuss it here. What better place? I mean, even Pep's been linked with the job, which
steady, Gary, steady.
What do you think? I mean, it's a bit premature, but sod it, we can do what we like on here.
But I think the respect that they've got for each other, the FA and Gareth, and because of how it's gone over the past few years and what he's done, I think that's what probably is, if he is going to leave, is happening, is that he's allowing them the time to go and do whatever. But good luck trying to keep that quiet as soon as you speak to someone.
Well, you just think about it. So we've said in the dressing room they've got good harmony. So they've already got that. And we've talked, when we was doing the World Cup, whether it be Euros, about the decisions, in-game decisions with Southgate. So we have to look at managers who could tweak it. And we're only talking about little tweaks. You get to a semi-final and a final, we're talking about the little
fractions.
Yes, the fractions. Exactly. So
who will be available in those?
Realistically, or who will be available. But I checked it while I was in the break, and some names were linked. Potter, obviously, is out of work at this moment in time. Lee Carsley, who won with the 21s.
Eddie Howe?
Won something.
Eddie Howe!
Eddie Howe!
I think he's in line for the Saudi Arabia job. I mean, he's probably the obvious one, because there's not exactly a plethora of hugely successful, talented England managers or coaches possible.
There's no doubt that he would be very, very high on the list.
I would say so.
And so he should, after the job he did last year at Newcastle.
But how do you decide, though? Do you just want to bring in someone who's already won something? Someone who's good in developing young players, like a Pochettino? You know, that mold of coach? Do you bring in someone like a Nagelsmann who's dealt with...
But, you know, it's almost it's not a part-time job, but it is in some ways, because it's part-time with the players, isn't it? You get them... What do you get to prepare for, say, this Ukraine game? What do they get? 4 or 5 days together before the game? Then you've got another game 3 days later. Then they go back to the clubs for a month. Then you get them again for a few days. It must be very frustrating.
The reason you hear managers saying, don't you, I love the buzz on the training ground with the players every single day. So then for them or someone to give that up and just have them 6 or 7 times a season for 3 or 4 days, then it's a very different job.
Should he be English?
It's a very good question. It comes around all the time, doesn't it?
I'm personally now, I didn't used to actually. I think I've changed my mind on this. I used to think perhaps not. That was probably at a time when we didn't really have any obvious candidates. And I used to think not, and I didn't think it mattered. But then I don't know. I think a country like England, and it's a national sport, it should be a manager from your nation. I feel that now.
What about Serena Wiegmann though? For the women, like it wasn't any different because she. No,
I know what you mean, English. And I understand that. But you know, Brazil, have they ever had a non-Brazilian manager? No. Argentina probably have. But you go Germany, never. Although, and we're doing this podcast at 4:00 on Sunday afternoon, and we've just heard this very minute that Hansi Flick has lost his job with Germany. Unsurprisingly, really, they were pretty useless in the World Cup, and they've just lost 4-1 in a friendly to Japan. So, but it just shows you, even in Germany, things can go wrong from time to time. But they've never gone for anyone outside, neither of France, neither of Spain, neither of Italy. It's probably unimaginable for those countries. And England is one of the, it's one of the great footballing nations.
I totally understand that, but you have to also go back and say, well, England have won, or we have won nothing since '66. When you look at Argentina or Brazil or Germany or Spain, these guys have been successful and had trophies. Other than the tournoi, England have won nothing.
Well, won the Euros, but in the women's game.
Well, you said it yourself, though, Gary, didn't you? There's not a great pool of English managers out there, is there?
What I would say, though, is I think only in recent times is there a really good pool of English players to enable a manager to win a tournament like that. We've had various eras, probably 90, the Euros 96, where we've had decent squads and the golden generation. But I think by and large, because of our youth development, how poor that was until probably 10, 15 years ago, when it all changed and we started short-sided games for young children and we learnt to pass the ball to each other. Therefore, we've got way more technical players nowadays. We are more competitive now. The interesting thing is, why does English football not have that many great coaches? It's a funny one, isn't it? Look at somewhere like Scotland, which is a lot smaller country than England. They've had some really great Scottish coaches over the years.
When we have a good British coach or English coach, like Potter. Potter's a good manager. He was doing so well at Swansea, did really well at Brighton. And then what do we do as a media? We hype him up. And of course, as a manager, he's got to take that job. It might not come round again, but he shouldn't have got the Chelsea job at that time. Let him carry on what he's doing, learn, improve, and then get the big
in
job.
life and things. The opportunities don't always come up exactly at the time that you want them to.
But if you trust your ability, your ability, timing, it will always come. It will always
anyway,
come.
we'll see who gets the England job, and we'll in 2 years' time we'll see. We'll also see, of course, who gets the Germany job probably very shortly if they've now that they've fired him. I want to talk a little bit more internationally for the rest of the podcast, and I noticed the last couple of days that Ronaldo, in an interview, said that his long-standing rivalry with Messi is now over.
You really believe that?
Well, it is in a way, isn't it? Because they're both kind of in as I call it, semi-retirement. One's in Saudi, one's in playing in the MLS in America. But I think it might be worth saying what a joy they've both given us for the last 2 decades. That rivalry that probably pushed each other on.
Yeah.
Whoever you side with, it's been a joy to watch. Truly glorious.
They took it to different levels, haven't they? Over the past few years, we will look back and think how lucky we were to actually sit back and then being able to enjoy and watch how brilliant both of them have been. And there's absolutely no doubt about it that because of how brilliant they both are, they pushed each other. One was scoring 2 on a Saturday, the other one was scoring 3 on a Sunday. And there's no doubt in my mind that because of they were in the same era, that one wanted to outdo the other. Whatever he did, he wanted to do it better. And there's no doubt that happened.
We've always said that Messi's better, and I think we're all in agreement with that. He's just effortless the way he moves around the pitch. But when I played against Ronaldo when he was at Man United, wow. I mean, I couldn't switch off for a second. And this was at a derby. And then, like, when we're walking up, so you're walking at the tunnel where he's at Old Trafford. And I was only young at the time, but I'm looking to my left. I'm thinking, oh my God, there's I'm in awe of the guy. And it was in early times when he wasn't just playing on the right wing, he was playing left wing as well. And he would come to me and just do 5 step overs in 2 seconds. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was such a genius.
Did you buy it, Micah, or did you just see him off?
I bought every 5 of them. I was I was twisted and tangled before you knew it. But
did he say anything? Like... Did he give you anything? Was he? No.
He never said anything, but he just used
he
to
likes a wink. He's famous for it.
So like he used to like dribble past me. Like you always used to love like it was sort of like a Cruyff chop. Do you know what I mean? A Cruyff chop. And then he'd go past me, go inside, and he'd just wink at me. And I would just
try and kick him.
Swearing to myself. But I was just like, wow, what a player. And to see him go from that to like Real Madrid, like two of the greatest to ever do.
They took the goal scoring levels also. I mean, you know, Gary, when we were playing, if you got 20 in a season, that was deemed to be a really successful season, didn't it? Yeah. And then they come in. I mean, that also, it was like they were more forwards, weren't they? They weren't particularly centre forwards. Who play wherever across the front line. But yeah, they took the numbers, the goals to different levels.
You remember that season? Not a season actually. It was a calendar year when Messi scored a 90. I mean, 91 actually. I think if I remember rightly. Mustn't forget the one on the. I mean, that is frankly absurd. I don't think that record will ever
outrageous.
However,
outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, truly extraordinary footballers. Messi's still doing it, of course, out in scoring all sorts of goals. Cracking free kick he got for Argentina the other night as well. I'm not going to use this as a debate to see who's better. But Messi is, isn't he? They're both great players. There's no question about that, and has given us so much satisfaction. Ballon d'Or, of course, is I think the end of next month, which I think Messi should be, no pun intended, but a shoo-in.
Dad jokes again.
It's like a disease, Micah. It can't help it. I can't help myself. It's funny you mentioned the wink there, Ronaldo winking at you. But he's famous for the wink after the sending off, of course, of Wayne Rooney, wasn't he? Which brings me, interestingly, that Wazza, as he's popularly known, has been linked with Birmingham City.
I want to bring in a star name. I actually really liked what Rooney did at Derby. I thought it was really good, and then had all that things with the dot points, and it looked like they was going to stay up, and he was very unlucky. And I think he's got something special. I don't think I'm not saying it like it was with Gerrard or Lampard, where because the career they've had, they should be good money. Rooney, I've seen him on the training pitch, and tactically he's doing things ahead of his generation. So I think he'll be a successful manager.
He's Wayne Rooney, so I mean he was one of the great players that we've had in English football. That's a different kind of job altogether, but he's done a little bit of the learning game, hasn't he? He's been at Derby, as you said. He's been twice in America at Washington, so he's learning his craft, Alan, because it's a totally different thing to playing, as you well know yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got to give him great respect for doing that. Obviously, he would have enough money that he doesn't have to do it. It's because of the love of the game. He moved over there again. So yeah, when or if he does come back in, I hope he does really well, because I respect him and admire him for doing that.
And it could be, down the line, another possible English coach.
Why didn't you be a manager, Gary? Because we've took the mick out of Alan for his job at Newcastle, which I've said it's not your fault, Alan. You only come out of side. I've always.
You're right, Micah. It wasn't.
Why did you not become a manager? Come on, talk to us.
For a variety of reasons. I don't think I'd have been very good at it. I don't think.
Why? Why though?
Yeah,
with all your knowledge of the game.
I'll tell you why.
You speak well.
I don't think I could have coped with leaving someone out the team. I think, if I've got 20 players and 8 of them, and I'm going to go...
You're trying to say it too nicely. Is that what you're saying?
Honestly.
Hold on. Have you seen your Twitter? You're arguing with everyone every day.
On Twitter when I can't see them in person. But I wouldn't want it. In fact, I think I'd go, well, I'm going to leave you out, but I'll let you play next week, okay? Or something like that. I don't know. And I never really loved training, mainly because I found it quite boring most of the time. That's the fault of the people who are coaching. But so if I didn't like training, I'm not going to really like watching training. It never, ever, ever crossed my mind. I got a couple of job offers. I think Villa, Doug Ellis asked me to be Villa manager, and Leicester did it at one point.
Hang on, Gary.
Not
Villa
when you
manager.
were there. Oh, that would have been great. I would have loved that. That would have been great. I got a phone call from Doug Ellis. It was shortly, I can't remember the era particularly, except for the fact it was relatively soon after I'd finished playing. And he said, would you be interested in the Aston Villa job? And I just said, management's not for me. I'm sorry, Doug. Yeah, it was
when he said it, Villa manager, I thought he was going to manage someone's house abroad. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know he meant the fucking Aston Villa job. Are you sure that wasn't it, Gary? They couldn't have managed one of your pals' villas abroad. It wasn't to be the Villa manager.
Oh, listen to Sir Alex Ferguson here. Oh dear, it couldn't have been worse than you, Al. On that note, we'll call it a day. It's always a pleasure, chaps. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Cheers.
Goodbye from me.